Shalom, shalom, shalom. Wa barakatah. Brother Daniel, you know what I'm saying? All praises and all and glory to the Father, Yahweh, Bahashem, Hamasiyach YHWHshi. Double honors to the elders, and peace and serenity to the 144 brothers that's pushing this truth out in truth, in sincerity and righteousness and truth. With that one said, shalom. So, I'm doing reading an article here, which is posted, "The first fruits of your labor will draw heaven's favor," written June 3rd, 2019 by a Wanda Alger. Now, Wanda right here writes, "For those who are looking for the increase of favor and opportunity and assignments of the Most High has given you focus, your attention on the first fruits crop, which will open the way for greater harvest and production." So she sits there and thinks that it has something to do with, vanity, help, and things like that, when it's supposed to be helping the poor. That's what the first fruits is. First fruits of Israel, the first fruits. First fruits of your children, that's the first fruits. First fruits of your labor and your harvest is the first fruits. Get what I'm saying? So, moving on. Many of you have been given a commission, an assignment from heaven, and are looking for more connection and opportunities to grow that which has been planted in your heart. However, Yahweh is encouraged to pay more attention to bearing good fruit than establishing a production platform. It is the first fruit itself that will draw Salakia, heaven's favor, and create a larger platform for growth. Very true, very true. Right? Continue on. From the fruit of his mouth, a man is satisfied with good, and the work of a man's hand comes back to him. And this is supposed to be Proverbs chapter 12, verse 14. Now, this is Proverbs chapter 12, verse 14 in the English Standard Version. And in the KJV version, it says, Proverbs chapter 12, verse 14, "A man shall be satisfied with good of the fruit of his mouth, and the recompense of a man's hand shall be rendered unto him." So it's basically just saying what a man says comes out of his mouth to be good fruits. And what doesn't come, what evilness comes out of his mouth. Get what I'm saying? "And the recompense of a man's hand shall be rendered unto him." Obviously saying the work that you've done will come back onto you. So moving on. "Sow the seeds of obedience in that which the Most High has called you to do, but your hand to plow and to be faithful for the measure you currently have. Be a good gardener in the portion you've been given, and steward your field as a master vine-dresser. Do not look for immediate results or instant access. The seeds of your vision call must be given time to mature and grow. Water them through prayer and wait as a watchman," which is a very agreeable statement right there. Very agreeable statement. Moving on. "When it is time, that which you have planted by the Spirit will bear fruit and draw those who are hungry for its taste. The seeds that you are called to plant will be unique from others. The fruit born of your heart carries its own aroma, taste, and substance. Do not compare yourselves with other vine dressers or gardeners. Each one he calls will bear different fruit according to their seed and kind. The prophetic words spoken over your life may water the seeds in your heart and stir your potential, but it is your faithful labor to bring forth a first fruit crop that will create further opportunities for growth and expansion." Now, they're saying this more of a materialistic way, but it is a very true statement, even in materialism and spiritually. If you sit here and you plant seeds that are willing to sit here and grow of your own particular style, whatever it is you may do, paint, draw, dance, sing, music, lyricists. There's a lot of different spirits and different styles of different fruits of the seed. So depends. These people are talking about it in more a materialistic way, but it's more supposed to be spiritual. But moving on, they got a scripture here. She considers a field and buys it with the fruit of her hands. She plants a vineyard. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. Now that's a great scripture. I love that scripture. That's to do mostly with um you know a virtuous woman being a hard worker. But it's a very great scripture. It has nothing to really do with first fruits, but it is a woman's first fruits. So moving on. If you watch carefully, pray faithfully, and wait for its harvest, and the fruit you bear will draw those who have craving for it. You will not have to wonder or worry about who will see the fruit of your labors, or who may join you in your cause, for there will be drawn to it as flies are ripe to produce. It is not your marketing skills and the potential of the produce that will attract others, but the fruit itself. Very true statement. Your workers sit here and produce those that want to see the work being done by your hands. As more brothers wake up and they start teaching and start creating, as the Most High puts creativity minds into them, whether they create clothing or armor or material or, shape rocks and stones and gems and diamonds and ephods and all the different creations that our people do, certain people are going to have taste for their particular style of what they create. So, obviously, it says its own fruit. It'll draw its own fruit flies. Moving on. Use your emotional and spiritual energy to tend to your assigned field and garden. Even when you don't see results, trust that your obedience is working underground, feeding and maturing that which you've planted. Do not be distracted by others' gardens that may seem to be yielding fruit, for each field has its own harvest time. You must focus on that which Yahweh has given you grace for, and that which work without striving. So basically saying, pay attention to yourself. You brothers and sisters just need to pay attention to your own style, your own, what hobbies and things that you enjoy that you can help the world with, and what style and what craft it is that you have a particular taste for, will obviously draw towards others with the same particular taste or style, and also call on others. So, very true statement. Moving on. Even at the first sign of fruit, there is a time of ripening. Fruit must fully mature in order to taste good and be digested properly. Be careful not to pick the fruit before its time, for it will carry no aroma or no flavor. As heaven ripens the fruit from above, the sweetness of the fruit will begin to draw those whose spirits are searching for it. There will be no pressure for perform or need to produce, because the fruit itself will draw those whom the Father has destined to taste it and share its harvest. Very true statement. It will call on its spawn. You may need a little advertising, but you really don't. It calls on itself. If you're doing good work, everybody will see that it's good work, and they'll want, your help or your advice or your product in itself, depending on what it is. Obviously, we got a scripture here. Blessed is everyone who fears Yahweh, who walks in his ways. You shall eat the fruit of the labor of your hands. You shall be blessed, and it shall be well with you. Which is very true in some cases if we're dealing with the backward system that goes against the righteousness. Now this righteousness is coming on, but obviously the Most High is obviously still going to have good fruit that's going to produce no matter what. There's things that they cannot take away still being needed. They think they can take away herbs. They think that they can, mistake it for doctoring and medical and chemicals to sit here and fix the magic pills to fix everything. And the Most High says, I gave everything through the herbs of the tree, the field, to heal the nations. So, last paragraph. Be patient in the time of growth and ripening of fruit. Know that the favor and increase will come in due time, as you are faithful in tending the dreams of your heart and seeds in your hand. So, yes, it's very true. You should be patient and wait for things to come around and when they'll come into fruition. So, be patient with what's going on. Patience is a lot of people's pet peeve to deal with waiting and seeing what's going on. But obviously, the longer you're patient, the bigger the reward. So I have a couple precepts here. Let's start off with Genesis 1 and 11. So this is Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 and 12. And the Most High said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, and herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. So the Most High sat here and said, in the beginning, when he created everything, the third day, he brought forth fruit. This was springtime. And he sat here and said, every fruit tree yielding fruit of its own kind. That includes man, woman, and beast. Animals, everything. Everything yields its own seed of its own kind. That's part of the first fruit, is understanding the differences of spirits and its types of different flowers, fruits, people, man, beast, all the same flesh. There's plants that have the same flesh, but they ain't got the same spirit. You got animals of the same flesh, cats, birds, dogs, but they all have different species of that same flesh. Just like man, we have different man, woman, and child, different colors, blacks, white, brown, you know what I'm saying? And but we also have differences between, we all have the same flesh, but different blood, different styles, different thinking patterns. There's different fruits, right? Moving on. Verse 12, and the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after its own kind. You see that? Herb yielding seed after its own kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after its kind. And God saw that it was good. So, Most High said that everything yielding its own fruit is good for the people, man. It's always good for it's healthy, and it gives its own particular style or taste or flavor to the world. So let's jump to Psalm 65:9. Sixty-five 9 through 13. Thou visitest the earth and waterest it. Thou greatly enrichest it with the rivers of the Most High, which is full of water. Thou preparest them corn when thou hast so provided it for it. So the Most High sits here and says, I visit the earth and I water these things, these different particular styles. So there's going to be those that are very strong in it, in certain styles, and come from different nationalities, different backgrounds, but have the same taste. And some are stronger than the others, right? Moving on. Thou waterest the ridges thereof abundantly. Thou settest the furrows thereof. Thou makest it soft with showers. Thou blessest the spring thereof. So the Most High brings the increase all the time. And verse 11, thou crownest the year with the goodness, and the paths drop fatness. Now days bring goodness and things of that, right? Verse 12, they drop upon the pastures of the wilderness, and the little hills rejoice on every side. The pastures are clothed with flocks, and valleys also are covered over with corn. They shout for joy as they also ring. So everything is going to die off. What he wants to live will live, and what he wants to die will die off. The Most High chooses which ones he wants to yield and which one he doesn't. This is all on him, right? Let's jump to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 26. Right? Chapter 1, verse 26 through 30. And the Most High said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let him have dominion over the flesh of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. You see that? So the Most High sat here and gave us dominion. He said, make man in our image. Now, when he made man from the image, that means he's also talking about the flesh. So blacks, Hispanic, and Native American Indians, y'all got to realize that he made y'all in his likeness. Let them have dominion. And then he gave him dominion over all the things. We were supposed to keep control over this world. That was our position, right? Moving on to verse 27. So the Most High created man in his own image. In the image of the Most High created he him. Male and female created he them. So the Most High created us after the image of the Most High God. So we're all gods. We're all in his image. Get what I'm saying? So, verse 27, 28, Salakia. And the Most High blessed them, and the Most High said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the earth sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Now, this one's saying, Be fruitful and multiply. Now, this is how you can tell the difference between Jacob and Esau in a lot of the situations that's going on today, while they're having low birth rates. Because the simple fact that the white man choose to have a more pedophilic, incestual type of family situation that's, against the Most High's, ordained logic towards having a family. The Most High, the male, the female, and the children in an order. Esau walks around here and he wants to have, man with man, woman with woman. We can adopt children, and you wonder why his kids are not building up, because you're not working it in the Most High's framework in how a family and growth is supposed to happen. You contradicting, so it's just to be LGBTQ or gay or whatever you want to call yourself. That's just, you're going against your own natural ability to sit here and reborn and continue to thrive, or let your blood thrive, or let your kids thrive in the next generations. So it's contradictive. It's only you're trying to destroy yourself. If they think it's okay to be gay and LGB and pedo, all these things are against its own nature. Right? So keep going. Verse 29. And the Most High said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in the which the fruit of the tree yielding seed to you shall be for meat. So right there it's stating that the Most High said, I gave the plants and the plant life and the herb life, those things that bear its own seed, as to be a healing factor, to be an eating factor, for you to consume and to eat healthy. The man does not have canines like a dog or animals to tear, bite, and tear meat. We have given molars. We have incisors to cut, but it's not for a lot of meat. If we cut something too strong, our teeth break or get damaged. So we have molars to chew. So that was meant to say that, yeah, we're more designed to handle plant life, and plant life is more designed to keep us healthy and refreshed in a good state of being. Right? So, moving on. Verse 30. And to every beast of the earth, and every fowl in the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. So he even gave it to the animals, saying that the animals can also live off these plants. These plants have like a day life. Not all of them, but a lot of you'll notice that flowers, they can bloom for a day and then they'll die off by the end of the night, and then they change, and whether they bloom again the next day, that's the question. Some plants actually have longer life. They live a little bit longer. They have 30 days, 40 days. Some trees actually live 1,000,000 years. So the diversity of plant life, and the diversity of all the different species of plants is far beyond any insect, human, anything else on the planet. So we got to start respecting our plants and what the Most High God, gave us to sit here and sustain our life, right? So moving on, let's go to Exodus chapter 23, verse 19. Right? This is Exodus chapter 23, verse 19. The first of the firstfruits of thy land thou shalt bring unto the house of Yahweh thy God. Thou shalt not seethe the kid in his mother's milk. So he says, everything that you produce, everything that you happen to grow within that year or that month, that you're supposed to bring 10th of that to the Most High. And he says, you're not supposed to seethe the kid in his milk. So I'm basically saying that, you don't take away the basic necessities of what the Most High is given and not give it to others and share everything that we have. When we grow, we're supposed to give it to the Most High, and the Most High is going to gift it to others who may not need it. But as we move into the kingdom and we start thinking in the righteous ways according to His laws, then you'll realize that if everybody was sitting here growing fruits and vegetables and herbs in their yard, there would not be any hungry because everybody would share, would be able, even if there was, natural disasters or hurricanes or tornadoes or, hailstorms or thunderstorms or whatever that happens to destroy land, that those that weren't affected would be able to would faster be able to relieve those that were affected and be able to pass them food, maybe pass electricity if we moved into sharing electricity and things like that nature. But we don't live in that system. Our system is still working on under construction. So let's keep moving on. Let's go on to Exodus 34:22. So this is the book of Exodus, chapter 34, verse 22. And thou shalt observe the feast of weeks, and of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingatherings at the end year. So at the end of the year, basically, we're supposed to sit here, and one of the main holy days the Most High requires of us to do is to basically the Passover, the Feast of First Fruits, and the Feast of Tabernacles. So the three demanded requirements of the males to show. So keep going. Thrice in a year shall all men, children, appear before Yahweh, thy God, and thy God of Israel. You see that? So all men are supposed to required to show up for these 3 days, especially if you say you love the Most High, then these are the holy days that you would keep and respect. Right? Moving on, verse 24. For I will cast out the nations before thee, and enlarge thy borders. Neither shall any man desire thy land, when thou shalt go up to appear before Yahweh thy God thrice in a year. So he's saying that this is basically a scripture saying that he's going to protect those and he's going to increase those lands that serve him on for these 3 holy days, especially a Feast of First Fruits, which was the increases, a blessing, a peace offering, a meal offering in the name of the Most High, Father Yahweh. Right? So moving on, verse 25, thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven, neither shall the sacrifice of the Feast of Passover be left unto the morning. So he's basically saying that, no food is not all food's supposed to be thoroughly cooked. All meat should be thoroughly cooked. There shouldn't be any blood left in it. But obviously heathens will probably take this as funny and try to particularly stick blood in people's food on this day, including leaven, which is yeast. So these are 2 things you're not supposed to have. Yeast, which is it's not that it's bad, it's just not healthy for you. And the blood, obviously, is never good to drink, to be eating blood, but obviously Esau would debate that one. So moving on, neither shall Salakia 26. The first of the first fruits of thy land thou shalt bring unto the house of Yahweh thy God. Thou shalt not seethe a kid in its mother's milk. So basically saying once again, to bring your first fruits on, man, your 10%, you know what I'm saying, whether it's money, whether it's food, whether it's gold, material, clothing, linen, sheep, kids. If you just birthed and had a new child, bring kids, all these things, all the first fruits of your increase, that these new things that have come about onto you that you want to bless to the Most High, then these are the times to bring it into Him. Right? So, moving on. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23. And verse 15. Right? This is Leviticus chapter 23, verse 15. And you shall count unto you from the morrow, after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. So the 7 Sabbaths you're counting from is from the end of Passover. And at the end of Passover, you're supposed to count 7 Sabbaths away. The 7th Sabbath is going to be the first day of first fruits, Feast of Weeks, Pentecost, whatever you want to call it. Verse 16. Even unto the morrow, after the seventh Sabbath, shall ye number 15 days, and ye shall offer a new meat offering unto Yahweh. Right? Verse 17. And ye shall bring out your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2/10 deals, and they shall be a fine flour, they shall be baken with leaven. They are the first fruits of Yahweh. And ye shall offer with the bread 7 lambs without blemish of the first year, and 1 young bullock, and 2 rams. They shall be for a burnt offering unto Yahweh, with their meat offering and other drink offerings, even the offering made by fire of sweet savor unto Yahweh. Then shall ye sacrifice 1 kid of the goats of the sin offering, and 2 lambs on the first offering of the year, the sacrifice unto the peace offering. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits of the wave offering before Yahweh, with the 2 lambs, which shall be holy unto Yahweh to the priest. And ye shall proclaim in the selfsame day that it may be a holy convocation unto you. Ye shall not do no servile work therein. Now, I want to back up and just go over the fact that I read through the offering, the sacrifices, because the sacrificial law is done away with. So that's not really, it's not particular that you have 2 lambs and you're trying, you got to go through the sacrificial ritual and things like that. Right now our food is tarnished. So it's just more of the case of keeping the feast and offering up clean food. So those are the 2 main portions of what you choose to offer up. It's clean food, unyeast, and that it you don't have to worry about the sacrifices but on verse 21, and you shall proclaim the selfsame day that it may be holy convocation unto you. You shall now do no servile work therein. It shall be a statute forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. So here's one that Esau pretty much will have everybody working and won't close down. So as you can see, we closed down most of the stores and offices closed down on Sunday, knowing that Esau was in fact the reason that Sabbath is no longer kept. It's kept technically Sunday. That's why they shut everything down when it should be happening Saturday. So it's got a lot of people against the Most High. So this is just to show you that this Christianity is demonic and it's evil. That it goes against the words of the law, and they don't celebrate the holy days in the Bible. So once again, in that selfsame day, you're not supposed to do no work, no silver work. None of your workers or children or anybody that's under you is supposed to do any work these days. It's supposed to be a complete day of relaxation and congregation with your brothers and sisters. So moving on, verse 22, and when ye reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not make clean riddance of the corners of thy field when thou reapest. See that? So you're not supposed to take every corner, take all the first fruits of everything that you harvest. If you actually have a growth and you grow everything, you're really not supposed to harvest everything. You're supposed to harvest most of it, but leave some particularly, right? Neither shalt thou gather any gleaning of thy harvest. Thou shalt leave them unto the poor and unto the stranger. I am Yahweh thy God. You see that? So part of it is basically about sharing. It's learning how to properly share while still having growth and keeping your portion of the share. You can harvest it, and out of what you harvest, 10% of it is going to go into to the Most High, but it's a community chest that you're sharing for those brothers and sisters that are keeping the truth and the faith. And the rest that you're leaving that you do not harvest is for the poor, those that are, insects, animals, things that are sick. So other people can just simply, take of your trees, your fruit trees, and this and that if they walk by. And so it's to share for the poor and the needy. That's who those are for. That's your first fruit. It's more of a caring for the poor and needy and the fatherless and the widows in your community. And since we have a lot of that and they seem not to care, these are the things that was ordained by the Most High to sit here and do, which is for our righteousness. Right? Let's move on to Numbers chapter 28, verse 26. 28, verse 26. So this is Numbers chapter 28, verse 26. Also in the day of the first fruits, when you bring new meat unto Yahweh, after your weeks be out, you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work. Once again, there it is. That basically you're not supposed to be working on that day. From that night on, once that night kicks off of first fruits, from the night on to the next day, it should be a day of relaxation. You should be able to sit here and study, do a couple hours of study, go ahead and do your prayers and bless up to the Most High. Enjoy your first fruits with your brothers and fellowship with your brothers and sisters. And, bless it up to the Most High, and then enjoy the rest of the day in relaxation, whether you want to sleep or just study and enjoy with your kids and your family. That's what this day is meant to be about you, your family, and the Most High. So, moving on, Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 16. This is Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 16. 3 times in a year shall all the males appear before Yahweh thy God, in the place which he shall choose. So right there, he tells you that all the males are required to show up. No males can skip out on this. This is meant specifically for the men. So, moving on, in the feast of the unleavened bread, and the feast of weeks, and the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before Yahweh empty. So it's just basically saying that for the Passover, for the 7 days of Passover and unleavened bread, for the feast of weeks or feast of first fruits or Pentecost, and also for the feast of tabernacles, for the 7 days, 8 days of tabernacles, is your days to show up for the Most High, and you're supposed to have something with you, whether it's wine, food, money, whatever. You're supposed to have an offering to share, to give to the priests, to the Levites specifically, the Haitians in your congregation. But that's because they're the Most High's portion. Moving on, verse 17. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of Yahweh thy God, which he hath given thee. You see that? So you're just not supposed to stress, if the poor man gives what he can, his 10%, and the rich man gives 10% and a little extra, but basically everybody should be giving a little bit of something into the community chest. And obviously the more they give, the more it's the Most High sees that you give and you're actually helping the community. He says the more he'll give back to you. The less you give, the less that'll come back to you. So it's your choice. It's not really, a particular amount or set amount or anything like that. You give what you have, the Most High has gifted you to have. That's what you give. Right? Moving on. Deuteronomy chapter 26. And verse 2. Right? Deuteronomy chapter 26, verse 2. That thou shalt take of the first of all thy fruits of the earth, which thou shalt bring of thy land, that Yahweh thy God giveth thee, and shalt put it in a basket, and shalt go into the place which Yahweh thy God shall choose to place his name there. So this is the definition of the first fruits, was just basically saying that you're supposed to take your increase, what you've had for the month, what you've had for the year, the increase if you had a child, all these things, all these first fruits that were blessed onto you. You need to come into the Most High, confront the Most High, and bless them to the Most High for blessing you with them. Let's drop down to verse 10. Verse 10, Deuteronomy chapter 26, verse 10. And now, behold, I have brought the first fruits of the land, which thou, O Yahweh, hast given me. And thou shalt set it before Yahweh thy God, and worship before Yahweh thy God, right? Verse 11, and thou shalt rejoice in every good thing which Yahweh God hath given unto thee. So you're supposed to be happy about what you received and the gains that you've gotten. Some people's gains will maybe just particular friends. It's a beautiful thing to see that, Israel's coming together and that brothers and sisters are coming together in truth and honesty and righteousness. So some of our first fruits is from the brothers that we thought we may have been alone for a long time because of segregation, and we've been scattered all over the four corners of the earth. So now we're realizing that there's other brothers just with the same like-mindeds that care about righteousness and truth and living up to please the Most High, right? So, and on to thy house, thou and thy Levite and stranger that is among you. So you're supposed to sit here and say that. These are the things you're supposed to be dwelling on. You're supposed to be sitting here and rejoice in the growth of your family, the growth of what's been in your house, and your children and have their growth, and the growth of the Levite, having a Levite around, and the growth of the stranger that's still around you, that's not living completely, hammered down on the street and this, that, and the third, that you've helped them out, and then these things, types of growths of inside their life with their fortunes, their misfortunes, and things of that nature. Moving on. Verse 12, when thou hast made an end of tithing, and the tithes of thy increase the third year, which is the year of tithing, and has given it unto the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and widow, that they may eat within thy gates and be filled. So it's about, once again, it's about helping the have-nots, those that don't have much in this, that, and the third, that we're supposed to be helping each other out. So this is my little breakdown on the Feast of First Fruits, brothers and sisters. So I hope you guys have a blessed day. And with that saying, I'm Brother Daniel. You know what I'm saying? Shalom.